Hey guys, welcome back to VM Nation. Welcome back, guys. This is going to be an amazing episode. We're going to be talking about some amazing things near and dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about PTS recovery. We're going to be talking about recovery, meditation. And I just want to let you guys know we're going to be talking about this book. Yes, I've read it 4 times. Amazing book, amazing author. She is a 3-time, 3-time author. She is changing the game of mindfulness and self and guided meditation. She is an Iraqi war veteran. So I love having my female veterans on because I get a whole different perspective. So thank you so much for finally coming on. I finally get to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I am great. I'm absolutely great. It's a beautiful day outside. I got to enjoy that a little earlier.
So before I forget, because I do have a traumatic brain injury, if I don't ask the question, I'll forget it. What is your definition of resiliency?
The definition of resiliency is a person's ability to bounce back from adversity. And my personal definition of it is like, no matter if the world's falling down on you, you still have the ability to be badass. So
I love it. Now, if somebody's seeing you right now, you look so peaceful, so happy. You see you're you got some amazing author. You got a great life. You got a great family, but it hasn't all been rainbows and unicorns, has it?
No.
So give us a quick down and dirty about who you are, where'd you come from, a little bit about your military service, and how you became the force that you are today.
Okay. So I'll start with I was born in Missouri. I grew up in Missouri. My parents, they're actually veterans. My dad was in the Navy. My mom was Army. And they always wanted a daughter. I actually have like 6 sisters altogether and 2 stepbrothers. None of them joined the service. And I was kind of the tomboy. So my dad and my mom, they kind of leaned on me. Like, they were like, I know she's going to join. I know she's going to join. I got in a lot of trouble as a kid. I got in a whole lot of trouble as a kid. I spent 2 years in juvie. I was always fighting. Always fighting. You could literally, you could tell me, hey, I'll give you $5 to go fight this person, and I would do it. So that
now was
not a very good quality.
Was out of anger, or was it just something that you like to do?
I liked to fight. I actually liked to fight.
Okay.
Like, I really did. But I also, I got picked on a lot too, because we didn't have a lot of money or anything like that. And so getting picked on, but fighting was my way of keeping the bullies away, So people wouldn't mess with you if they knew that you'd hit them in the face. And so I took that and I kind of ran with it. And it got me put away as a teenager. When I came out, I started college. And my parents were divorced at that time. And so I went with my dad. My dad got custody, which is not something you see very often.
Yeah.
But he's a really, really good dude. So I'm not saying my mom wasn't a good person, but she had 4 other girls she was raising. And my dad just ended up having me. And so every time that we would go to the grocery store, he would do this thing. And the checkout people would be like, this poor girl. They'd say this poor girl. Because those brochures that are right there at checkout for like all the different branches of service. My dad would pick them all up and just hand them to me. Like, go join. Like, literally, just go join. He was really pushing me. And so finally one day I went up to a recruiter, and I was just like, okay, I'm ready. So-
Now, because I got in a lot of trouble as a young kid, even when I joined the military, but that's a different episode. Uh, but was it hard getting into the military? Did they know that you got in trouble before, or what was that like?
yeah, actually, it was difficult. Because I was in juvie, and I actually graduated from juvie. I ended up getting my GED, so I had to have a waiver. So I had to get that waiver, and then I actually had to speak with, because of what I was going in for, and I wanted a security clearance. It was a, top secret clearance. So I definitely had a lot of hoops to jump through. There were so many interviews I had to go through with different folks in suits that came to my house, and spoke with me and whatnot. But they gave me a chance. They gave me a chance, and I was really grateful.
You said you have two parents that are veterans. Why did you choose the branch that you did?
I Because my dad, more than anything, because my dad. My grandpa was Air Force, and all his brothers were also in the service too as well. My mom was born in Japan. So I chose that, not Army, mainly because of my dad, but also my grandpa, my step grandpa, and he would tell me stories about being an MP. And so when I joined, I loved his stories the most, and so that's why I became an MP, specifically an MP.
Okay, now on this show, I don't stop any punches. We speak real here. So I've had I have 60% of my guests are female veterans. I love my female veterans because I don't think they don't get the props enough. They don't get the respect enough. On this show, they do. But I grew up in New Jersey, and I got cured of racism in 1986, and I talk about that in my book. But I always like to hear it from the other side because when I was homeless at one point, I had a black family bring me in, and I lived with them for 10 years. And they taught me everything. They taught me about families having matriarchs, patriarchs. I didn't know what the hell any of that meant. And they also brought me to Christ. So I always give them shout outs. But what is it like, joining the military as not only a female, but a female of color? What was that like?
I'm gonna say it was difficult, and it's a story that actually like really hurts when I think about it. But it ended up having a good ending. Um, it ends up having a good ending, at least for me. Um, when I first joined, I was like top of everything. I was at the top of everything. So when I joined, I was late one time and I joined as a reservist. So I was late one time to drill, and the squad leader that I had, at first he doted on me, and he had said a bunch of racist stuff in front of me, but I was just like, okay, I'm an E2. I can't say anything. He would say, black people only voted for Obama because because he's black. They don't know what they're talking about, da, da, da. Or he would call people, like he would call any like black person like young money, and that was his. And he even told me, that was his way. Instead of saying the N word, he would just call him young money. And I just kind of dealt with it. And I was late once. And after that one time of being late, mind you, it was like daylight savings time. So I didn't, adjust my alarm clock. But anyway, I was a little bit late for drill. And after that, he started railing on me. Like it got to the point where, and he would say just the most racist crap. He said, I don't like your face. I'm going to make sure you don't get promoted. Like, I don't think anybody in black leadership knows how to, lead at all. He was like, I don't care what you do. I'm going to make sure anytime you want to get promoted, you're not going to get it. And I actually didn't get E4. Like, mind you, the first four are automatic.
Yeah.
So this man made sure that I did not get to the next rank. Like, I didn't get PFC until maybe right before we went to Iraq, and which was like 7 months after I got out of basic and AIT. So I just took abuse from this man constantly. And everybody would just kind of, he was the loudest person in the room. And so everybody was intimidated by him. And it wasn't until right before he went to Iraq, you know how you'll have those people from other units join your unit.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was another man, and I still speak to him to this day. I still look up to him to this day. His name was Sergeant Hurd. Really cool, buff ginger. And he had saw what was going on. And he was just like, I want you to just keep your head up. I see that you're a great soldier. I see that you're amazing at everything. And right before we deployed to Iraq, I remember thinking to myself, this man is going to get me deliberately killed. Like, I know that my squad leader is going to get me deliberately killed. He's going to put me in a situation where, and of course, also being the lead driver too, because I wanted to be the lead driver. Like, I know this man is going to do something that's going to harm me, and I can't get out of being lead driver. So he eventually, the leadership, the higher ups noticed how bad he was treating me and everybody else. I mean, but he kind of treated me the worst. So they took him out of a leadership position and actually put him in the TOC. So I was actually really happy about that. Later on, he actually got demoted and got his security clearance taken away, and he became a cook. And when I did want to get promoted to sergeant later on, he was actually, I don't know how he got put back in a position to make any kind of decision when it came to the MPs, but he did. He pulled me aside and said, you're not getting promoted to sergeant. I don't care what you do. Well, then I joined the drill sergeant unit, and then I came back. And I actually saw him at a reunion not too long ago, and I said, I want to thank you for all the crap you put me through, because you prepared me for all of the crap that I was going to deal with later on.
Yeah, and I love that story. Now, for me, I was a big troublemaker even when I got thrown out of the military the first time for being a drug addict. Got back in the second time, almost got thrown out for being an a-hole. I got 8 Article 15s total, 2 field grades. So they thought they were going to get me thrown out for good. So they sent me to a unit that was 90% brothers. So we get deployed the first day. I'm in my room. I got the music bumping. It's DMX. And my squad leader walks by. He looks. He goes, and he just walked away because he's like, wait a minute. This is some young white dude. Listen to DMX.
Why are you?
He's actually now, we're best friends. He's a retired sergeant major. But he gave me a chance. He said, you know what? This kid's been in trouble. Now he busted E4 to E1 again. And then, just because he gave me a chance, I became Soldier of the Year. I became a non-commissioned officer. But sometimes people are brought into your life for certain reasons, and you don't know why. Like for that gentleman, he may have been a thorn in your side, but he made you a better, especially, I know you had to become a better NCO because you learned what not to do by what he did, right?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't until later on, honestly, a couple of years ago when people I spoke with and reached out to me. And this is really crazy. Another female that I was actually deployed with who saw everything that was happening, but she was kind of like his favorite. Like he would dote on her, and it was because he wanted to sleep with her, honestly. But she was lesbian, so it wasn't going to happen. But we had spoken, and I was doing my VA claim. I was putting in a VA claim, and I wanted a buddy statement about an assault that had happened. And she actually took the time. She took like a whole week to do this buddy statement, this long buddy statement for me, because she was a witness to an assault. She was a witness to the assault, and she apologized. Like she actually, apologized for not speaking up because she was afraid that he would turn his anger onto her.
All right, so we're gonna hop in it because, and I know this stuff is tough to talk about, but it needs to be talked about, and I really don't hear talked about on a lot of other shows. One of my best friends, her name is Annette Wittenberger. Um, she's retired Lieutenant Colonel, Army, but she was sexually assaulted, and she had, and a lot of women that I've had on have been assaulted, whether physically, mentally, whatever, even emotionally, or just the way people talk to them. So, talk to us about your experience in Iraq and why you eventually, had to get help for post traumatic stress.
I apologize for that.
Oh, no, I got 3 kids, so I love it. How?
It's like, where's my juice? Where's my juice? Like right in front of your face. So, uh, yeah, I'm sorry. I missed like half your question.
My question is, this show is, we get real AF. My friend Annette Wittenberger, retired Lieutenant Colonel, Army, was sexually assaulted as a child, and then also in the military. And it needs to be talked about because only 10% of any abuse claims actually get reported. So talk to us about, if what your experience is like was in Iraq and why you had to get help for PTS.
So when I ended up I had an NCO that, kind of came on to me in Iraq. I didn't say anything. Um, and then again, when we were in Italy, it happened. And my I didn't report any of them. Well, the one in Italy was actually reported, but the unit actually didn't do anything about it. Let me tell you what they did do. So when I lashed out at this man, he was actually chasing me up the stairs, and other like soldiers were, up the stairs. And when they saw that, he threw a bottle at me. Like he threw a bottle at me and was like, "Keep your mouth shut." When I finally got away from him, and there all those other soldiers are standing there, and I turned around, and when I realized that I had a chance to push him down the stairs, I went for it. I went for it. I punched him, and I went to push him down the stairs, and the other soldiers, they didn't know what was going on. So they grabbed me. They grabbed me, and they're like, "What has gotten into you?" And I go to my room, and this guy is standing there, like at the door. He's standing there at, our room door, because I'm in there with other NCOs and, other female soldiers. And then he starts telling them, "Oh, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's been drinking." Da, 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 da. Like, I was just like, and I didn't say anything. The very next morning, I got woken up by a bunch of angry NCOs, and they made me go downstairs, and they smoked me for 3 hours in like 100-degree weather. I didn't say a thing. I just took it. It wasn't until the same one that wrote me the buddy statement just a couple years ago, she came down and she was just like, "Have you had any water?" And I was like, "No." She heard my knee is cracking too. They said it was her turn. So mind you, they were all taking turns and smoking me. They even made me roll around in my own vomit, which which was disgusting. But I did it. I did it. So I didn't report it. It was reported. When I told her what had happened, she was just like, "Tell me why you acted out of character. You need to tell me why you acted out of character." And I told her what happened. And then she's like, "Wait a minute, get up." She's like, "Get up. We're going upstairs." And so we went upstairs, and, we told the commander that was there with us, because mind you, this was a AT in Italy. And so the whole unit wasn't there. And so our actual commander wasn't there. It was like a stand-in, like a stand-in officer. And so, but our first sergeant was there. So anyway, all they did was have a formation and make that man apologize. And then he agreed to transfer out as soon as we got home. Little did I know that I was the one that was going to get transferred out. So next thing I knew, I was getting a phone call from some sergeant in a unit in Iowa that was like, "Hey, you're supposed to be at drill today." And I was just like, what are you talking about? I actually just left drill. And he's just like, no, you've been transferred to our unit. So
All right,
I
all right, hold on. Let me get this straight. So you get assaulted, then you get smoked, then you get transferred.
mm-hmm.
So I'm hearing a lot of you, but whoever this guy, I don't even call him a man because he's not. In my opinion, he's not a man. So he didn't even get a slap on the wrist, and he got away with pretty much everything.
Yep. And actually, when he left the original unit, he apparently did the same thing. So basically, this was a pattern of behavior for this man until he was finally kicked out. Um,
So how
that
many years did you actually do in the military?
10.
Okay. Well, first, because I want to dig deep, especially with 10 years, and I want to dig a lot deeper. They call me the male Oprah or the G.I. Joe Rogan. So we're going to go a little bit deeper. I want to thank our sponsors, first of all. Guys, I was in the military for over 23 years, with GNC for over 30. I loved coffee. I loved pre-workouts, but either they tasted like ass or they make me go to the bathroom as soon as I drank it. So I came out with my own called Vertical Momentum Coffee. Twice the caffeine, twice the energy, no crash. The best part, it's 100% hand roasted by veterans' hands. And also, for every bag you buy, I don't make $1 off. I don't make nothing off of it. It all goes to help veterans struggling with PTSD and homelessness. We're actually building a FOB rush, and that's from a young lady that took her own life because of PTSD. And we're going to take 12 families, 12 veterans and their families, take care of them for a whole year, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, at zero cost to the veteran. So, guys, if you drink that other coffee, I'm not going to say which one, but if you want a great coffee with an amazing mission, write coffee down below and I'll get that to you. Also, if you guys are in New Jersey, if you love Italian food like I do, check out Muriel's Trattoria. The mother actually came off the boat from Italy and she actually prepares every meal. So every piece of Italian food that she makes is made with love. So if you guys love Italian food, check out Muriel's. All right, so let me ask you a question because, like I said, I want to go a little bit. I want to go deeper. Usually if you're in for 10, you're in for 20. You're halfway there. So, what was your thought process in getting out of the military?
Well, in 2016, I actually decided to become a government contractor. And so I deployed to Italy, or I'm sorry, I deployed to Israel and as a contractor. And that experience was was really cool. There was a lot of independence in being a contractor. The pay is better. The pay was a bit better. There's more freedom, a little bit cooler places sometimes. And so I just didn't see the military fulfilling, you know, being fulfilling anymore. I was ridiculously depressed. Um, just ridiculously depressed. I just didn't I had that, stereotyped thinking like everyone's the same. Everyone's the same no matter where I go. I'm going to run into this problem. Um and I honestly found being a government contractor a bit just better. Just honestly just better. And um and then there's also the fact that when I did come back from Israel, I ended up trying to numb my pain. Like like I said, I was struggling with PTSD, I was struggling with insomnia, struggling with migraines, depression, and all that. And I actually started taking medication the wrong way. I started taking it the wrong way and ended up getting addicted. So I stopped showing up to drills. Uh, and from there, I just reached my ETSD.
All
And
right,
I never deployed overseas again.
all right. So then, because one of my friends, Sergeant Nick Valentine, says, once you step off base, the military doesn't give a shit about you. You lose your camaraderie. You lose your friends. You lose your job if you lose your income, and you don't have a mission anymore. But it seems like you had a mission when you became a contractor. But what was it like? What was your transitioning story like? Was it hard or was it easy?
It was hard. I didn't I didn't really know who I was because I knew that there were things that were going on in the military that made me feel crappy, but it had been so long and it was just really hard for me to like make friends outside of the outside of the service. Like all the friends I have now are folks that I served with. Like when I've got when I if I ever go through an emergency, I will say when I had my first son, my first and second son, those people rallied around me, even though I hadn't seen them in years. They rallied around, and I was getting boxes of baby clothes, and they just sent everything I need. I can tell you, for the first like 9 months of my son's birth, we didn't have to buy a thing. I mean, they all reached out even after I hadn't spoke with them in a few years. Um, and so and throughout that not speaking with them for a few years, that's what I was going through, just feeling lonely, not really thinking that they were going to be there for me. But when it came time to be there, they actually were. And I regret not trusting in the fact that those people were genuinely good people. Like I really should have believed them when they said, "Hey, we're here for you if you need us." And if I actually did believe them at the time, my transition probably wouldn't have been so bad.
Okay, so now I can remember I most people I've talked to, especially if they got sober, if they got clean, if they're in recovery, they can go back to the exact day and the exact moment when they said they were sick and tired of being sick and tired. For
Mhm.
me, it was I got the handcuffs on my hands. I'm getting ready to do 5 years for grand larceny, but the guy that saved my bacon said you can either go to AA for 90 days and pay back my money, or you're going to go to jail for 5 years. So that was literally my come to Jesus moment. What was the moment where you said, you know what, this is not working. What I'm doing is not working. So what was your moment where you said, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired? Take us back to that day.
Um, I had gotten my car repossessed. I lost my place to stay. My fiance dumped me. And then I found out that I was pregnant. And that was May 4th, 2019. May 4th, 2019. And on May 5th, 2019 is when my family had stepped in. I told my sister what I was doing, and I was actually living at her house, sleeping on her couch. I had told her what was going on with me and what I was doing behind everybody's back, why I lost my car, and that I was pregnant. And she actually got my ex fiance at the time, who's now my husband, but my ex fiance at the time, together. And mind you, I had also stole money from my sister. I didn't know she knew, but she knew. Um, and she got my family together, my grandfather, my mom, like my sisters, my nieces, and I was sleeping on the couch. It was like midday. I don't know why. I don't know why I was sleeping, but I mean, I was pregnant, obviously. But they walked in, and I was just like, "Why is everybody here? What's going on?" And they were like, "You need to pee in this cup." It's like, what? Okay, I'm not gonna fight it. I'm not gonna fight it. And so I did it. And then they're like, so what do you want to do now? And I said, drop me off at the VA. I said, drop me off at the VA, leave me there. I'll take it from here. And that's what I did. They dropped me off at the VA. They left me there. It was a convoy of cars. My ex-fiance, my granddad, my mom, everybody, my whole family. And I was the last person they ever thought was going to do something like that, or who would do drugs or anything like that. They all gave me a hug. I walked inside the VA, and I've been sober ever since.
All right, so let me, because I love that. Every once a month, I go speak at my VA. I speak in jails. I speak at the VA and tell them my story. And most of them are checked in, self check in for 30 days. But when I'm talking to them, they've been in there 15, 20 days. And then I ask them, do you have a plan for when you get out? And they're like, yeah, no, I'm just going to go back to the same places that I came from, hang out with the same people. And I'm like, oh, come on. I'm like, you can't go back to the same people, places, and things. And like my friend James Clear wrote in a book called Atomic Habits, your habits define who you are. So obviously when you got out, you had to do something different. So talk to us about, not only, being in the rehab, but it's after that I think matters more than what happens while you're in. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. One of the things that was a catalyst and where I was even able to get drugs or anything like that, or get pills or get opioids, which was my issue, was opioids, because it made you not care about anything. So one of the catalysts was I was actually a dancer at a local strip club, and I was doing that actually behind my fiance's back for a couple hours when he was at work. And that would pay for my habit. And so when I got out of, I only spent 5 days in there. During that 5 days, I could see it was crazy. It was like once I got into the VA rehab, I'm in there, they're checking on the heartbeat of the baby like every hour on the hour. And I thought I was maybe a month or two pregnant. And when they gave me an ultrasound, I was actually 6 months pregnant. And so my belly, within a few days, it got pretty big. It's like the baby finally started moving once I was sober. And so my belly got big, and my ex-fiance now who came and got me. He came and picked me up, and he said, "You're going to live with me." And he said, "I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to take care of our son. And you're no longer going to go, you're no longer going to go to the club. I want to go through your phone and whatever, sketchy looking text messages, we're going to block those folks." We went through my Facebook. Like he was a really big, like he was just like, I want to protect our son. He wanted to protect our son more than anything.
But, also, for recovery, for people that want to stay sober or clean, you have to be brutally honest.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I wrote a book because Gary Vaynerchuk told me to write it. So I wrote a book talking about all the dirty shit that I've ever done. So I've got no shame in my game whatsoever. But I had to be brutally honest, and I think in order to stay sober, stay clean, you have to be brutally honest, and I think half the time we think we're lying to people, but they already know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So you might as well just come out and say, listen, I fucked up. I'm sorry. And I want to do better, because we can say we want to do better, but if we don't actually change the behavior, it really doesn't matter. So talk to us about, how to become brutally honest, and what was that like having to become brutally honest?
Oh God. It was hard because I was under a microscope for so long. Um, I was literally under a microscope. Like, and I appreciate him for that. I really do appreciate my husband for sticking by me and showing me tough love. I had to become brutally honest with the folks that I had been hanging around with who were supplying me with what I wanted, um, and just cut them off, just completely cut them off. Like they tried other means of getting a hold of me, and I was just like, no, I don't want to talk to you, or I just block one or the other. It was one or the other. Just block them or say, hey, I want nothing to do with you. Um, and I had to dedicate every minute to being sober. And part of that being brutally honest was actually talking to the OATP, which is opioid addiction treatment program for the VA. Um, and I would, my husband, my fiance at the time, he had, we had one vehicle, which was his work truck. And so he would have to go to work, and I would have to walk my pregnant ass to the bus stop every day, stand there and wait, and ride the bus up to the VA and sit there and talk with all these mental health professionals that were there, and tell them everything, every dirty detail, everything I had been doing, everything I was feeling. And that was not something that I was used to. But I'm glad I did it, because it's just easier now not to have secrets. It's really it it's so uplifting not to have secrets because you're trying so hard to hide stuff. If you're not honest, you're being secretive. And when you live with all that, it just makes life harder for you. You're just going to be more depressed.
All right, so now because let's talk about that. When I wrote my book, it hit number one twice on Amazon in the addiction space. But for me, it was very healing. But I had to pull a lot of old wounds back to actually start to heal. And some parts I actually had to talk to people and be like, "Hey, I think I remember this, but I'm not sure. Can you give me the background on it?" And some things I got wrong in the book, and I publicly admit, like my father bailed me out, and I never knew it until he passed. So I always, give him props. But for me, it was very cathartic when I put the book out. So, what was your writing process like, and what was your thought process in writing a book?
And when I first started, it was when my mother-in-law, she had, so she was like, hey, you're coming to church with me. First of all, she was like, you're coming to church with me. And it was in women's prayer. There was a women's prayer circle. And one thing that they would do, they would meet at whether it was at the church or they meet at the park. And the park was my favorite one. But we would literally hold hands, be sitting there, in this group of women from church in a circle, praying. And each person would take turns, praying out loud, and basically just kind of leading everyone into that mindset, communing with God. But there was also, with the whole health program and with, OATP, they stressed mindfulness, and the VA has this, they have this, mindfulness app, which was really neat. There's my psychologist and my psychiatrist. They both do the same thing. And in groups, we started doing meditation as well, in the OATP groups. And so I said, okay, I want to do this by myself. I want to start doing this by myself a little bit more and see see if I can do it by myself. And with guided meditation, there is a facilitation point to it in which you include, outside elements. It's not just you, always just sitting there meditating. There's outside elements, whether you put music and there's there's other considerations. So to bring you into that state of tranquility and mindfulness and searching within yourself for that strength. And so the more and more I got into it, the more and more I delved into it, I said, okay, like if this can help me, I wonder if I could. I wonder if I can help some other people with this, because my brain was not only busy, but I had physical ailments that were going on, in which I was getting test after test after test after test ran. Um, I was using a cephaly device for my migraines, and I was getting all these CTs and MRIs trying to figure out why my migraines were so bad or why I wasn't sleeping. Um, until finally, my neurologist, and I've got like three of them that I was seeing, and they were like, it's your stress level. It's your stress level. It's nothing else. Like, we could poke you with needles all day to try to test what's going on, but it's your stress level. And so you're going to have to figure out a way. Like, we can't give you anything else. You're wearing a device every morning that shocks you, like literally shocks your brain for 20 minutes, an hour a day, sometimes more. They're like, and nothing's helping. They're like, it's your stress. Um, and so I said, and actually, meditation, the more I started meditating, the more began to implement it in my day more and more and more, the more my migraines actually went away. And so I said, okay. And I was sleeping better too. And so if this can help me, let me try to let me go ahead and, create some kind of guide to help other people and see if they can follow these little steps. And I tried to make it as short and as comprehensive as I could. Um, and try to help other folks, you know, get into it.
Now, like my friend, I got two friends. They like I was telling you earlier, meditation actually saved my marriage, saved my life, because I got two friends. My one friend, his name is John McCaskill. He's a retired Navy SEAL commander. His partner is Will Schneider, and they taught me about meditation. And a lot of people think, well, I got to sit on a mat for an hour and do hums and all this, and I'm like, no. Like for me, I take 10 minutes every morning. I don't even pick up the phone. I go sit on the corner of the couch, close my eyes, and I just have quiet time, because it seems like we don't have time for quiet. We don't, everything is on a phone, laptop, somewhere. We're always having, there's always something going on. So even if you just take 10 minutes in the morning and just have quiet time, for me, I pray. I pray, and I give thanks. I'm a big gratitude guy. I love gratitude. I give thanks for my bride, my kids, my day, and I always say before I even get started, I'm like, Lord, you woke me up today. It's going to be an amazing day. I can't wait. So I start out with gratitude, and before I go to bed with gratitude. But the meditation, I think, is what gets me in that space. And even though I struggle with insomnia, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I look at it as an opportunity to talk to God. If I'm going to be awake anyway, I might as well have a conversation with the one that made me. So
Yes.
talk to us about, how meditation can be simple. It's not as complicated as a lot of people think it is.
It really isn't as complicated as It's really not as complicated as some folks think it is. You don't have to go to a class or anything like that. If you want a facilitator, you can have a facilitator. I go into that, in the book. Like, you can do it at home. Um, it it is really simple. Like, but you do want to you still want to make sure that you're comfortable. You do want to make sure you're comfortable. Nobody wants to sit there and there's a section in the book that I put in the book, that talks about, make sure you got on comfortable clothes. Try to make sure you have uncomfortable clothes. No one wants to adjust themselves the whole time. You're not going to really reach a state of mindfulness if you're worried about that. Try to make sure you're comfortable. Try to implement it at pretty much any time. Try to share it with others. Uh, but I mean, it's not super difficult. Like, and I want to say, like, even the most successful folks too, they implement meditation, like you were saying. A lot of successful people, they talk about that. Like Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. My husband and I, we read Miracle Morning.
Yep.
It talks about, if you could start with 1 minute and then 2 minutes and then 3 minutes, like there's different steps, implement these things in your morning, and meditation can just be added in there. And it makes a huge difference when you can clear your mind just for a bit and make some good decisions, and search for that strength within yourself, as opposed to outside, as opposed to seeking it from outside, finding that inner peace in yourself. And you're not going to find happiness and peace out there. You're going to find it in here. So doing that, it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to have a bunch of candles around. You can be anywhere as long as you're comfortable.
So then, what is the difference? Because I know it's going to be asked, so I got to put it out there. I do both. I do meditation, and I also have guided meditation. So, but in your professional experience, what is the difference between both, and what is the advantages of guided meditation?
I think the difference between both is meditation, there's both of them are entering that state of tranquility, that state of mindfulness. That's the whole point of meditation in general. Um, but you've got your regular meditation where it doesn't really matter what you do. Like you can do it anywhere. But guided meditation in itself is, like I said, it's got that facilitation element to it. You add music, you're adding things, you're adding outside things to help you reach that state of mindfulness, to reach that state of tranquility. So you're thinking about what you can add to it. Um, so that's the difference between the two. There's a facilitator, whether it's, like I said, whether it's a person or whether it's music or whether it's anything, sounds. You can use sounds, but there are different outside elements to use from it, as opposed to just meditation in general, which is just yourself. That's it.
Are there any apps that you recommend that you actually use?
No, I don't use apps anymore. I don't use apps anymore. I literally turn on, like, really. So I'm just gonna say I use certain type of music. I use a certain type of music.
Okay.
And one type of music that I really, really like to listen to and that helps me is it's Celtic women.
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, Celtic women, because they've got some beautiful, like, if I want to, if I feel like I want to reach a state where I'll give an example. I'll just give the example. So we have a pool in our backyard, right? So I feel like I want to commune with nature. The kids are in the taking a nap. I go into the pool and I actually meditate, but I will turn on Butterfly by Celtic Women, which is, the fiddler for
Yeah.
Celtic women, but it's just so relaxing and whimsical at the same time, and kind of makes you feel, it puts you in a state of where you're just kind of envisioning, even though I'm in the water, I'm just kind of envisioning myself like as a butterfly, kind of communing with nature. I know it sounds cheesy, but
I get it, because a lot of times, like, um, sometimes I like listening to Catholic music, just because there's something about the sound. It makes you feel peaceful, and it just puts you in the zone. So it depends on what kind of zone I want to be in for
Mhm.
that day, the kind of music that I'll listen to. So now, how do we find you? How do we support you? How do we find your books?
You can find my books, The Serene Path, Mastering the Art of Guided Meditation, on Amazon. You can find it at Barnes and Noble. You can find it on Apple Books, Right BK. Um, so that's available there. I do have other books available, but so Breaking the Chain, uh, empowering strategies to deal with the narcissist. That's another good read. It goes through the different types of narcissists. That's only available on Amazon. You can find my author's page on Amazon, Tamara Wood. And also you can find me on Facebook at Tamara.
Yep. Now, guys, make sure you follow her on Facebook. She's fire. She has some amazing stuff out on Facebook. I just started following her, and I just love it. I
I'm
love her.
opinionated. I'm opinionated.
I love that, and I love your family. You have an amazing husband. You have an amazing family. So I'm just grateful that you're part of my inner circle. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today.
I'm so honored you allowed me to come on this show and speak. Thank you.
I love it. So, guys, as you know, I'm a big Joel Osteen guy. And like my t-shirt says, today I decide. So, guys, today you get to decide to be a victim or the victor. Choose being the victor, no longer being the victim. I love you guys. Thank you so much for always being with us. Thank you for the support. I love you, VM Nation. Guys, like my tagline says, vertical momentum. The only way to go is but up. I love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I got to order the other books in the series now. Since I got one, I got to order the other books. Have an amazing,
I hope so.
amazing week. God bless.